Hi guys. In case you haven't noticed, GameStop's at an unbelievable $37.75. By the time I look up and look down, maybe it'll be at 38. If I look up and look out, there it is, 39. This is unprecedented. And what can I say? This opportunity for a lot of you guys to sell, get out while you can, get some quick money, go buy something else, because it's not worth 40. It's not worth 30. It's not even worth 20. So sell now while you can at this rich price and go buy something nice. Go invest in a real company, because this isn't it, man. I think we'll sell off on this Roaring Kitty news tomorrow. You know, what can we
What's
buy?
the news? What's the news?
We don't know. He's doing a podcast or a live stream. What the hell could he possibly say? He doesn't work there.
That's gonna be fucking bullish. It's honestly over for the shorts, so they're gonna get fucked tomorrow.
I've been through a lot of squeezes in my life. I've ridden stocks up 3-4x. I'm prepared for pain. This is very painful, but fundamentally, this company is still not worth nothing. It's worth $5-6. You want to pay $40 for a $6 bill? Cool, do that.
It ripped like what 200% on his first tweet. Imagine his first podcast back. Like it doesn't matter what he says.
Tweets don't make companies money, or some of us would be a lot richer than others. The point is, you're trying to scam a quick buck from the stock market without doing the proper work, the proper research. You want to get a quick fix. It's not going to work that way. Everyone here is going to lose their money.
I mean, it's working though. That's the funniest part.
That's why I'm telling you, get out now while you can.
I'm not in. Look, I'm personally not in it. Like I can't even buy GameStop.
I got you, but the people that are here that are listening, you got a nice trade. Some of you are probably still down, quite frankly, from years ago. Or some of you are new suckers preparing to be the old suckers who are down from years ago. So get out, go buy something else. Buy Nvidia, buy Apple, buy anything is better than buying a company that's worth $6, $8, best case. Wildly optimistic case, $10. You want to pay $37 for a $10 bill. That's what you're doing right now. Because a guy's tweeting.
At what price to the upside would it really cause like pain for the people that are shorting?
I mean, now $2 more, maybe. There's a lot of people who have a stop loss. See, they're not like me. They're cowards. They're gonna get out fast. You short a couple million shares, and they say, you know what? At $40, I'm out because I'm gonna be fired at 45.
Yeah, so like those guys covering their shorts could
propel it higher to 45, and then the guy who was the stop loss at 45 gets fucking blown out. He's on the street. He's fired from Balyasny or Citadel or wherever, and now it goes to 50. And now I'm starting to get fucking nervous because I don't have infinite capital.
Wait, did you short this thing?
Yeah. But I have faith, man. This thing's going to zero. It's going to cash value. There's nothing happening tomorrow. He's just a normal guy. He's not a Wall Street analyst. He LARPs.
Martin, I think you're asking the wrong questions.
Yeah, like, listen, don't tell me what I'm asking, all right? This guy's LARPs as a financial analyst. Quiet down for a second. Now we see 38.5. This guy's LARPing. He worked at Mass Mutual in the back office. This guy's not a financial guy.
He's fucking rich. What does it matter? He's made a lot of money trading.
All right, quiet down. You're not allowed to talk to me like that. You're only slightly below Roaring Kitty. Pay your dues. This guy worked at Mass Mutual processing back office trades for people not even like me, like 3-4 rungs below me. That's what this guy, Roaring Kitty, is. All right? But he's your hero for some reason. Not you, Charlemagne, where the fuck your name is. I'm talking about every one of these other idiots. Look, I'm going through a lot right now. This is not what I wanted to see. I thought we would be back at 25. We're at almost 39. It's up $7 on no news. Roaring Kitty is not news. He's not. His tweets, his live streams don't make the revenue go up. They're not going to reverse the downfall the company's in. Okay? You can squeeze a stock. You can even try to paint the tape. You could force it to go higher. Okay, it's breaking 39 now. Okay. All right. That's okay. It's all right. We got a little room. But the guys who are shorting, they're thinking about covering because 40 is a big number for a lot of these guys. But I've been through worse squeezes than this. This so far is, on the Richter scale, maybe a 4. Okay? I've seen 5s. I've seen 6s. I've seen 7s. Nobody's ever seen anything like their first squeeze, which was a 10. But we're not going to get that first squeeze again. Those days are over. Cats, what do you want? Cats, talk to me.
His mic is probably fucked.
Come back later when you can fucking learn how to operate it, goddamn.
Hey, Martin, by the way.
Hey, Charlemagne, what?
I mean this with absolutely no offense. I just want to preface by saying, like, no offense, all right?
Well, who are you?
Brother to brother.
First of all,
I'm no one. I'm nobody.
No, I know that. So don't tell me how to fucking trade.
I am not telling you how to trade. I'm not saying that, right?
Here we go. We're back down. We're headed back down. 39, below 39 again. Let's go. Come on.
Like, I can detect cope when I see it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
Listen, you're coping. You think this company's worth more than $6.
I have no position. I don't give a fuck.
Then shut your mouth. Average, what's up?
What up, bro? How you doing today, man? I hear you're a little...
Not good. A little agitated. A little fucking agitated, yeah.
I hear you, bro. I mean, look, like, you're a sharp trader. This is gonna... You know the way this is gonna play out.
Do I? Because I wouldn't have shorted it fucking yesterday if I did.
Well, that's the challenge, right? Like, I tend to trade, like, more on logic, right? And, like, this isn't a logical trade. Like,
it all comes out in the end. I'm willing to wait.
Yeah.
Usually,
it's just hard to time it.
My history is I'm usually about 2 weeks to a month early to the best price, which is why I have a little dry powder, and I haven't even touched my swap credit lines, which, let's just say, if I put those to work and I really wanted to crush this thing, I could crush this thing. But, and you know what? Let me finish. And that's just little old me. Every guy at Millennium, at Citadel, at Jane Street, the real big boys, because I'm not that anymore. I did different calling in life. You're going to your boss. Oh my God, 39 and a half. You're going to your boss at Jane Street, like Michael. Okay, you guys know who that is? That was SBF's boss. I met him months ago. You go to him and you say, Michael, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. So what is it? Japanese bonds? No. We're going to short GameStop. We're going to take out 10, 20 million shares. We're going to pound this thing and make everyone give up. And Michael will probably say, get the fuck out of my office. Don't come with me that shit again. But somewhere on Wall Street, someone's tempted. This thing's up 25%. Nothing going on. A podcast? God damn. Imagine NVIDIA hosted a gigantic Super Bowl-sized event and the stock didn't go up 24% on that. This fucking dumbass trading from his apartment, who was a back office settlement guy for Mass Mutual, not even a big firm like Fidelity, that this fucking guy matters? There's no shit about Shinola? He hasn't been with Dimitri. He hasn't been in the hallowed halls of Cummings Road. This guy doesn't know high finance.
What do you think the percentage of people that buy GameStop, like, this is something I've really been trying to think about. Like, what's the percentage of people that buy this stock that just don't give a shit about the price?
99%.
They don't give a shit, do they?
99%. Fuck, we're getting close to the breakout level.
39.5 now.
I know this is a price where a lot of people are in the short side are going to give up. It's probably going to go straight to 42, 43 the second it hits 40. But that's life. You got to live by the sword, die by the sword. Get some big trades that are winners. You get some big trades that are losers. It's part of the game.
Base, to be honest.
They call them face rippers. This is a face ripping short.
Bro. You love this shit, don't you?
I love the game. I don't love losses, but I love the game. I'm going to call some Saudis too. Fuck it.
Try to get the oil money in.
They have a lot of capital, bro. They got a lot of capital. They like tactical trades like this. Do an SPV, raise 50 million. Do an SPV, UAE and Saudi, and say, okay, I got 50 million collateral. Then I take that to the big banks and I say, I got 50 collateral. I need 500. But the problem is here, 500 million gets eaten up in fucking 30 minutes.
Martin, what was your entry?
Don't even want to fucking say. It's embarrassing at this point.
It's about to hit 40, literally. Just about.
Listen, I've done this so long, I know from my own body, the feelings in my stomach and in other places, I can almost tell when these things are happening. It's so bad. Oh, man.
Just say your balls. It's all right. Why don't you say your balls?
That's correct. My pee-pee. Yes. It hurts. It's painful. There's 40. Oh, my God.
I think a lot of people are about to get fucked hard.
We'll see. 40, there could be a guy sitting at Deutsche Bank saying it hit 40. Execute the order. Start dumping millions of shares. You don't know. We don't know. Market's hard to decide on,
I just never bet against the power of autism,
Well, listen, if you're at one of the pod shops, you're at Bally, you're at Millennium, you're at one of these places, you tried your best, you shorted 1 million shares, the boss says, no more, cut it off. Cut it off right now. It's over. Go make your money somewhere else. Don't touch the stock for 6 months, all right? And the trader's sitting there saying, all right, boss, I'm sorry I lost 20 mil. Don't do that fucking again. Don't try that again for 3 years. Just sit down and shut up. Your bonus is getting cut in half at least. If you're lucky to even keep a job here.
Dude, 41. You went to 41 in a single tick.
I know. I'm telling you, there's guys all around the street that have to capitulate at this price, 40. Now it's just a melt up to any price. It doesn't matter. It'll probably hit 80.
42 now. Holy fuck. You were right. Literally 2 minutes ago you said if we hit 40, it gaps to 42.
Yeah, it'll probably hit 80 or something like that. I mean, but as a short seller, you got to plan this stuff out. You got to prepare. And again, if you're lucky enough and stupid enough to be long right now, count your blessings, start selling a little bit, sell 10%, sell 20%. Go buy some bonds, go buy the S&P 500. This is not for you. You got into the great trade by accident because of a podcast and some tweets. All right, this company is still shrinking, still losing money. Those podcasts and tweets are not going to make people go to GameStop, just like they didn't make people go to AMC. So,
Martin, you're probably going to ring me again for this, but
yes.
I believe we're in a new age.
People are now buying AMC.
We're not in a new age. This has happened for 100 years. In fact, it's happened for 400 years. People will buy dumb things because they see it, the price action, and they think, is there a vol halt? Vol halt confirmed? Fuck. It's halted?
Yeah, just see 42.
Yeah, it's halted for vol.
Oh, fuck.
That means, I don't know what it means, honestly, but I see the problem is, at a place like 0.72 right now, Steve Cohen, you can imagine how I'm pissed. Steve Cohen's walking around with a baseball bat in his hands, and he's looking for the guy who's short. He's going to take his baseball bat and smash it through a computer monitor, and the guy's going to run scared, and he's going to say, why the fuck are we short this stock? And he's going to go to the trader and say, cover all those shares right now and go buy 3 million shares, because there are smart people on Wall Street, and they like to play games just like you and I do. And I think we could see $80, to be honest, because that's Carl Icahn likes to do that too. He's sitting there laughing. He never shorted it, right? He's sitting there laughing. This is funny. I'm 82 years old. I'm 85 years old. I'm barely fucking alive. But you know what? I have $10 billion, and it would be really funny if I bought 3 million shares right now, because it would probably go to 60, even on the rumor that I'm buying shares. And that's the kind of guy Carl is, and that's cool. He likes to play games with his money. Hold on one second. Okay, I have asthma, so I have a bit of an issue right now.
Deep breaths, Martin. Deep breaths. Deep.
It's a little hot in here as well.
Bro, take care of yourself, brother. Don't go touch some grass for a couple hours or something. Go get a nice.
I've been through this many times. I've seen the worst. I've seen the best. This is nothing. All right, $40. It'll calm down. Tomorrow will be an anti-catalyst where you expect the best will happen, but nothing will happen, and you'll say that was it. That was it, and the stock will drop because that's all they're left to it. So take your profits now is my suggestion before it's too late. Let's take some more callers, man. Dylan?
Yo, hey Martin. Tough on the squeeze, man, but I kind of agree with you on the underlying thesis. I think I'm kind of looking at this, and just like they did, I think a week or two ago, there's like 350 million shares outstanding. They have there's a billion shares authorized. So I think every time you see like a 20-30% pump, I mean, if I'm on the C-suite, if I'm the CEO, if I'm Cohen, like I'm hitting an ATM before tomorrow morning. And I'm, filing to sell another 50 million shares.
Ring the register. Absolutely.
And you also, from just, I think what I saw from like the options footprint, I haven't done it myself, but I saw a few other people post like unusual whales and whatnot. I think the Roaring Kitty guy has like literally sold none of his options that expire in like 2 weeks.
He could be going to jail at this rate. This was all fun and games. 20. Hold on. This is all fun and games at 25 or 30. It really costing a lot of people a lot of money, a lot of powerful people. And at this point, favors can get called in, is all I'm saying.
Yep. No, I agree with you there. And so, yeah, I mean, they might throw the book. But yeah, I don't. Like, could 80 or something happen? I don't have any money on the line here. Certainly think if you have the capital to get in a short at any of these prices and weather the storm, it's probably ideal because there's no business model. But yeah, I
Look,
mean,
you start with a 1% position. Accidentally, it's grown to a 1.5% position, and now you double it at 80 to make it a 3% position, and that's a bad trade, but it's if that's your worst trade in the year, it goes back down to 20. You'd be all right. You can also short more on the way down, which is what a lot of people like to do. So,
do you have a stop?
No, I want to enter. Basically, I saw, this is going to sound weird, but it kind of goes to like a trader's instinct. I basically saw a flash in my head where I saw the stock hitting 80 something, like 83 or 86. I think it'll do that. I hate to like manifest it, but I saw it and I can't unsee it. And that's the position. I started with a small position. Like I said, it's increased, unfortunately. But at 83, 86, I think that'll be the final top. This price is irrelevant. Like 42 might as well be 52, 62. It doesn't make a difference. Like this thing's going to melt up again. And, I can't cover it in a sense because I want the position in case I'm wrong. Because I do think there's a downside catalyst. Paradoxically, as this price goes up, it's bad for the investor because the expectations of the company have risen 30% today. Are they going to sell 30% more video games? Are they going to stop the transition from game companies, retail to e-commerce? No. It's gotten so much harder. The company's even more ridiculously valued. And again, another paradox is it goes up, the more Roaring Kitty gets in trouble because guys around Wall Street are saying, wait a second, why can't I do this? Why can't I fucking try to pump this thing? I don't do it because it's market manipulation. Man, get on the phone. Get this guy arrested. That's what's going to happen because they know once he's arrested, guess where their shares go? They go to bail. It actually happened to me. When I got arrested, I had a stock like this. I owned almost all the float. It was going crazy. I got arrested and went down 75%. They took the shares. They held them as collateral. as bond. So I don't know if you're Roaring Kitty that you want it to go to 80 or 100 or more. Oh my God, one tick goes to 44. Oh, yeah, like I said, it's going to be in melt up. If I'm long here, you accidentally bought $1,000, $5,000, get out. You've made a little bit of money. Take the profit. By the way, short-term tax gains, depending on where you're at, are anywhere from 30 to 50%. Wonderful. Vote for Trump. But go buy some real companies, man. This is a company that's shrinking. It's losing money. You don't want to buy this, and you don't want to hold it at 44. Even if you bought it at 6, at 2, at 1, it doesn't matter what price you bought it at. It's at 44 now. Is it worth 44? We were debating yesterday if it was even worth 10. So eventually the prices will come down. Do you want to gamble on that? I mean, you probably like to gamble since you bought it in the first place, but why gamble? Just take some off the table. Take half off the table and leave the other half. Do me that favor. Take half, leave the other half. So if it does go back down, you can buy back. If I'm right and it goes to 20, you have plenty of cash and you can buy double the shares at 20. If I'm wrong and it goes to 80, you still got that other half, plenty of money. Don't be greedy. Be smart.
Martin, have they gone through the first ATM yet? I mean, they registered, but have they sold all the shares, or are they still?
I'm not sure what they filed or not filed. Obviously, at this point, they have infinite liquidity to tap. They could raise $2, $3, $4 billion if they wanted. My fear, to the extent I have fear, which I generally don't, my fear here is that if you're short, is that Roaring Kitty is actually working with the company management team. That would be a problem. And that he's actually somehow coordinating with the company, and they are going to make some kind of announcement tomorrow that they do have news. It's not just a guy, the old saying, Wall Street is a guy with a Bloomberg. I don't think Roaring Kitty even has a Bloomberg, but a guy with a Z-Trade terminal, and he just says he likes the stock. Well, there's millions of us, and some of us are smarter than others, but everyone has an opinion. But if he's actually working with a management team and he knows something and there's news coming out and stuff like that, that would be problematic as well. Maybe he'll join the board of directors. That would be interesting. He's got a lot. I mean,
hey, Martin. Yeah. Martin, sorry, dude. I gotta go take a shit.
Oh,
but
wonderful.
I just wanted to come up and say, yeah, sorry, dude. I have some friends at the academy, and I'm going to nominate you for the best performance for what you're doing right now. So expect an Oscar coming your way.
I'm not a SAG member, so.
Yeah, well, it's coming, buddy. Like, this is like the best performance I've ever seen from anyone on a space call. And honestly, if for anyone listening out there, don't doubt Ryan Cohen.
Yeah.
Don't doubt Ryan
How
Cohen.
How do you turn $6 of cash into $44 of value? That's a magic trick if I've ever seen one.
Dude, you have literally no idea what's about to happen.
Neither do you. Neither do you.
No idea. Yes,
no, you
I
don't.
do.
No,
yes,
you don't.
I do. I have been studying this thing for 4 years.
Studying it, it makes you tell the future?
Literally no idea what's happening.
Maybe you can enlighten us. That's what
There is going to be something coming that is going to change the markets forever. I can feel it in my plums.
Okay.
Now my sphincter is loose. I have to go take a poo. Thank you very much for taking my call.
That was useless. I feel dumber
to the moon. Bed Bath & Beyond to the moon. Peace!
I feel a lot dumber for having listened through that. But, that's the average Bed Bath & Beyond and GameStop person. So let's see here. Let's see who else wants to talk. I'm dripping in sweat. It's disgusting. But, talk about that one more time. He could join the board of directors. Why? Well, when you have 5 million shares of a company, you got a seat at the table. Now, some companies, they don't care how many shares you have. They're not letting you on the board because being on the board is a lot of power. Dictate compensation, dictate M&A, et cetera, et cetera. But maybe they add him to the board. I'd push for a board seat if I were him, and I know all you idiots would fucking vote for it. fucking Mass Mutual trading clerk who clears trades for a third tier fund is running the stock market. What a story. What a Goldilocks story. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And maybe I sound a little elitist, but it's stunning, frustrating. Downright.
Yo, Martin. Yo, what's up?
Hold on. I got Mr. Pulte wants to talk, which is a big deal. Let me get him on here.
I think you're actually long. There's no way you're short.
Why? It's an overvalued company.
Bro, you're trying to piss everyone off and make
I'm not trying to piss everyone off.
Yeah, you are. You're trying to be as annoying as possible.
No, I'm not.
To get them to squeeze.
Maybe I'm annoying to you. I'm trying to save you money, dude.
No, you're not annoying to me. I'm not. I don't have any position, but I think you're long.
You think I'm long a stock?
Yeah.
I'm a value investor. There's no value.
I think you bought it a few days ago, and you're trying to piss everyone off to try and squeeze you.
I'm literally a value investor. This is a $42 stock with $6 of cash.
Martin, how are you?
Yeah, I think.
Hey, how are you? Hold on. Okay, I got a special guest, Mr. Pulte. I've looked up to you for a long time. Thank you for coming to chat.
Thank you. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah, you having fun? It sounds like you're having fun. I heard your space last night was fire. I got to listen to it. I heard it was just otherworldly.
Look, I have my opinion. I respect other people's opinions. It's a market. I'm sure throughout Pulte Homes, I remember being 19 years old and on a trading desk where we were trading your stock with Jim Kramer's hedge fund. And we like to trade the home builders. I never studied the field, but obviously you're a legend in that space. And I'm curious what brings you to GameStop and what interests you about it. But
sure.
Otherwise, yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate it. Pulte Homes is a great business. It's a legitimate business, right? I think you would agree with that. It's a legitimate business.
Very much.
And it's the real deal. And I think Ryan Cohen is the real deal. I mean, obviously, I agree with a lot of your stuff around valuation insofar as where cash is at. And obviously, I think that the stock is where the stock is at for potentially other reasons. But I think that, at least from my perspective, at least what I do on Twitter is about giving away millions of dollars and about, people, meaning specifically the average person being able to invest in these companies and whatnot. And I think that, Ryan Cohen at least is different from a lot of these other executives that, let's say, retail would want to invest in. Insofar as he's not taking any compensation, he's not, padding his pockets with all these different stock schemes, all these RSUs, and then these share buybacks. And again, I'm not saying that, I'm not casting, an aspersion one way or the other. I'm just saying, there are some really redeeming qualities about this guy. I don't know if
I think that's great. I mean, as you know, you've been part of a publicly traded company. I have as well, both built by our own hands. And I've seen so much greed out there from people who will do anything to get the company's resources into their own hands. And I think you've seen it too, where whatever.
Yes. Well, you said earlier that they don't want you on the board because of compensation. That's exactly why I had an issue with our CEO is he didn't want me on the board, in my opinion, because he didn't want me setting his compensation. So it's a whole scheme, in my opinion. Go ahead.
No, you're absolutely right. And there's a lot of common ground there because, I was kicked out of my own company, even though I was the largest shareholder at 20%. At a very nominal salary. I even asked my shareholders if it should be zero, and they said, keep it where it is. I had a big ESOP stock reward plan for meeting certain milestones, which I met. And a lot of people don't like that. The board members often don't like to see somebody do really well. And there's other people in the executive ranks that often want that compensation. So there's always this fight for these companies' resources. And it's terrible because shareholders come last. And you got a bunch of adults fighting over kind of relatively small amounts of money versus the market cap. This is a 10 billion market cap or whatever. It's even more now.
Of course.
And Pulte is a big company too. And to get
Pulte is 24 billion, and you got a CEO to your point who's making a lot of money, but in the grand scheme of the market cap, right?
Right. They're fighting for 5 million. They're fighting for 10 million.
Oh yeah, he makes unfortunately about 15 million a year. But that's another issue: is why is this guy, who has not even Ryan Cohen has more talent in his pinky finger than this guy who's running the company at Pulte Homes does. And why is he able to clip 15 million a year? And math maybe better than me with your Excel spreadsheets that I hear you talking about. And I love Excel. There's nothing better than Excel. But you can't really measure a lot of what Ryan Cohen does on Excel, and we could talk about that in a second. But what you can measure in Excel is the compounding nature of this compensation scheme that these guys have. And year after year after year, as you know, compounding is very powerful. And all of a sudden, these guys wake up and 5 or 10 years into their deal, they're worth 50 to 150 million bucks. It's a total scam, in my opinion.
I helped one of my early parts of my career. I was proud of. I helped fire the Pfizer CEO. And this guy lasted 18 months as CEO of Pfizer, and he walked away with around 200 million bucks. And he did a terrible job. Nobody liked him, but he secured, as you know, if you can get the lawyers on your side and a couple of guys on the board on your side, you can basically ransack the company for whatever you want, and it's perfectly legal. And to your point, a $25 billion company, Pulte, a $10 billion, $12 billion company here, to protect the shareholders so that one greedy person doesn't make a quick 10, 20, 30 million year after year as well is something where it's so important. It's almost like our government, where you have a $3 trillion budget and you have people making $100,000 deciding a $3 trillion budget. There's a mismatch there too. But anyway,
and by the way, if you don't go along with the CEO figuratively shoots you. And I was on the compensation committee. I was asking questions. I forget what he was making per year, but it was considerably less than 15. Boom, I get off the board. I get off the compensation committee, and bang, compensation goes through the roof. So anyway, I think one of the best redeeming qualities about Cohen is that. Now, on the math, I largely agree with, it's just math, what you're going through in terms of cash and what the model says and everything. But let me ask you this question. What if they buy an asset? They've got $2 billion worth of cash. What if they buy an asset? And I saw you were talking to that one guy the other day, which was absolutely hilarious when he was when you were asking him, what are the earnings? And he gave you 100 million and he thought revenue was earnings. It's a whole, don't even get me started there. But, and I'm sure you were laughing. I hope you were laughing, right? When he was confusing the two. Yeah, I know you don't judge, but you know what? This is serious business. We have to listen to people who know what the hell they're doing, right? So let's say that it's doing 100 million of earnings, and I think you gave them the benefit of that. What if they go buy an asset that's generating, I don't know, another 100 or 200 million in earnings? Now, you may say, well, you can't do that for 2 billion, but maybe they lever it up. I'm just saying, I don't want to count out this Ryan Cohen guy. And I agree with you about, that, the physical nature of GameStop stores may not be there in the future, but I think you and me can both agree Cohen's kind of pregnant on this situation, whether he likes it or not. And I don't know whether he does or not, but he's in it. And I just think that $2 billion worth of cash, focus on profitability. He's thinned this thing down. I certainly wouldn't bet against it.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that value investors who think too hard on spreadsheets miss is that management's job is to take cash and get returns on it. And sometimes, we think about that, at least in business school and stuff like that. You think about your weighted cost of capital, and okay, maybe that's 7% or something, and you get a project return that's 12%. That's not the real world. The real world is people make big bets, and I don't think Ryan Cohen's going to make a small bet. He's going to make a big bet that tries to transform the company, and he's not going to get 12% returns. He's either going to get negative 50% returns or 500% returns. And, allegedly he's a very smart guy. I don't know him. He's obviously put his money where his mouth is. As you know, though, there is no guarantees. There are plenty of very smart people where their second act is disappointing. It's not a guarantee that he's going to find the perfect asset, buy it, make us billions. And there's a gap right now, which I think you acknowledge, and anybody with the calculator can acknowledge it, that, we're paying 10 and maybe now 12 billion for a company that I think generously, some of the parts is worth 4 billion. So we're giving the guy $10 billion benefit of the doubt, which is a lot. And all I want to do here is not scare anybody half to death, but say, listen, if you're, and I think about my dad who just passed away, who I miss very much, who never trusted the stock market. And I think about my cousins and people like that, normal people. They're not millionaires. They have $20,000 accounts, $50,000 accounts. And I think of the horror and cringe if somebody has all their money in this one stock and they think it's going to go up forever. That you and I both know that's not the way the world works.
Yeah, but I don't think that people actually think that. Do you? I mean,
I hope
think
not.
one of the things that people underestimate is, and I can just tell you this from, having given to people who have way less than I do on Twitter every day is, people are way smarter than people give them credit for. And I don't think that people are sitting there, like complete dumbasses and thinking,
I agree.
Oh my God, I can't risk this money. I mean, I think most people know that this stuff is risky. And, I see one of the big trolls of mine, Amy, in here. All she does is spend her days obsessing about me. And I love her. I have nothing against her, but all she does is spend her days thinking about me. It's kind of weird. I have a wife. But, my point being is she spends all this time thinking about me, and she thinks that like she's protecting people from whatever. And it's like, nobody hired her to be their protecting force. People are smart. People can use their own brains. They don't need this lady. She says on one hand she's a mortgage specialist, and on the other hand she claims she's a hairdresser during the day. It's a totally weird thing. But my point being is the average person is smart enough to be able to know, in my opinion, that they can lose their ass. And you know what? It's a big fuck you to the system to put your money with a guy like Ryan Cohen instead of one of these corporate scumbags who's a parasite on shareholder money.
Oh, totally. I just want to say, for what it's worth, I like Amy. I think she's a nice lady. I'm sorry if you've had a bad interaction with her. I don't think she's half bad. She can be a little spicy, but we'll leave that alone for a minute.
I don't really care. I love her anyway.
All right. Now, I remember a company called Merck, and I studied Merck my whole life. And Merck had a big problem. They had a drug where they hid. I'm a pharma guy, as you may know. Merck hid side effects of one of their key drugs. They knew that it caused heart attacks. It probably was responsible for the death of many loved ones. And they had a problem on their hands. That's the kind of thing that could bankrupt the company, no matter how big it is. And Merck was able to settle these lawsuits for $6 billion, which for Merck isn't much. And Merck said to the guy who settled them, the general counsel, they said, "You're promoted. You saved the company. You're the boss now." The guy doesn't know. I mean, home building. I know pharma. In pharma, you got to know chemistry. You got to know biology. The guy doesn't know nitrogen atom for a carbon atom. But he's the boss of the biggest drug company in the world because he was able to kind of, in a lot of ways, able to get a low fee for what they did, which was terrible. And he's the kind of guy who, he made 30, 40 million bucks for 10 years off the shareholders' back. He landed a deal that luckily kind of stopped the company from disappearing. And it was just kind of one of these things in corporate America, which I agree with you, is if you can make it to the top, whether it's by ass kissing or any other method, to the top of corporate America, you can get rich at the shareholders' expense. You don't even have to look at the company. You could just pack your schedule with heads of state, dignitaries, famous people. You're just flying around the world. Wow, I'm the boss of Pulte Homes. Isn't that great? And not actually work. And it disgusts me too. And I do think Ryan is very admirable to invest with somebody like this because it forces other people to say, wait a second, what are you doing with your money? Why don't you own the stock? Why are you cashing out every chance you get instead of putting money in every chance you get? And I think
exactly
there is
that's
something.
the difference between an entrepreneur and a parasite. I actually think Ryan should get paid, even though the company's not making a lot of money, just because people would then start to appreciate what he's doing more. I mean, this whole thing about the fact that he's put all of his money in and this guy gets hated, and you know a lot about hate, right? But sometimes when you're getting hated, you're headed the right direction. And that's what I think's going on with Cohen.
Why not throw him an Elon type package? That's what I had, where if you can get revenue,
I agree,
to 10 billion, or something like that, give him 10 million shares.
I agree. Actually, I think I might tweet something like that he needs a package like that. And he's not going to be the one to propose that, but somebody needs to propose that, where if he does turn it around and really gets this thing going. Okay, but let's go back for a second, if you don't mind. And I know it's your space, so you feel free to tell me to get the hell away. But
no, it's a pleasure.
What do you think about this idea about buying another company? And something that cash flows, none of this crap that doesn't make money.
Well, I'm an M&A specialist. I built my company that I took public, got to $1 billion in value before I started a new one. Not Pulte, not S&P 500, but for me, I was 28 and did it very quickly. and I did it through M&A. I love M&A. But one of the things about M&A, as you know, is there's a lot of people with a lot of money, whether it's PE or hedge funds or anybody else, other entrepreneurs who have made money in the space. Everyone's hunting for the same elephant, and they're hard to find. And, he's smart, so he'll probably find something decent, but it'll improve the financials, operational improvements to the current business will improve the financials. It's a big gap to bridge, and talented management, as I said, I'd rather have a great manager than a bad manager, but at the same time, how much credit are you giving the guy before he's actually done a transaction?
A lot of credit, a ton of credit, right? And I think that's what most people are saying is they realize that the valuation is where it's at and they're giving them a ton of credit. But again, I think people are just so pissed off, much like you are. I actually think you share a lot with these people about how pissed off they are.
Yeah, I'd like the stock at 10 or 12 or 15, but at this price, it's
wow, you're already up to 10 or 15, huh? What happens if you buy something?
You talk me into I forget,
something. Yeah, right?
You brought back some of the emotions from my stint in corporate America that was very frustrating because
I'm sure a lot of people said the same thing about your stock, right? But it was the unquantifiables that they got. And by the way, I'm not asking you to invest in some bullshit product that doesn't exist or whatever. The product is Ryan Cohen, right? This is a quantifiable deal. This guy's not stupid. By the way, you mentioned about your dad passing, which I'm very sorry to hear. My father's amazing. He's still alive, but my grandfather was very, very close to me. I don't know if you've seen that, but he was the founder of Pulte. And interestingly, I was the only one in the family business. So he and I were very, very close. So I understand what you went through, and I'm sorry to hear that.
Oh, thank you very much.
And I would also say on top of that is Ryan Cohen, this thing with his dad, this is not bullshit. It is not... I assume what you're saying about your father is genuine. I'm genuine about mine. And I can tell you this Cohen guy with his father is 100% genuine. When I talked with him about it, you could just tell the inflection in his voice, right? So all this stuff about, his principles and everything, I really just, for whatever it's worth, in my opinion, I don't think he's full of shit in that way.
If he turns the $2 billion, and of course, as you know, he has resources beyond that where he can go to any bank on Wall Street and get $2 billion overnight with a snap of a finger, debt, equity, converts, whatever. And he has powder, more than enough powder available. Which I kind of tease that everyone's got capital, but it is an asset if there's a downturn. It is an asset. We haven't had a damn downturn in corporate America in 15 years in the U.S. economy, at least that's pronounced. But if we do have one, the company will be able to take advantage of that. But I think that betting on the guy to turn whatever he's got into the 10 billion or 15 billion that's missing, I think if he announces a good deal, the stock will go up. People will give him even more benefit of the doubt. And that's how Berkshire Hathaway was made, slowly but surely.
I think that's what this is.
But he's got to deliver a deal until then.
He has delivered a deal. How many other guys do you know who have the setup that he has, right? Which I don't think you or I would want in terms of the trends of the physical nature of a lot of these GameStop stores, all things being equal. It's not something you wake up in the morning and say, oh, this is the best hand I could ever be dealt. But how many other people do you know who could turn that into? By the way, he doesn't tweet. He doesn't do any interviews. It really is his character who's been able to, with the push of a button, raise $1 billion in one offering and then another $1 billion in another offering. So he has gotten some deals done. I mean, you know what I mean? And I know that cash isn't whatever, right? You're saying cash is stagnant, and on the valuation model, I agree. But to your point, if he turns this into some kind of mini Berkshire, I mean, I wouldn't want to be short this thing.
No, of course not. But everyone wants a mini Berkshire. It's everyone's dream. Every entrepreneur. And
yeah, but not everybody's Ryan Cohen.
No, but we need to see it from him. We need to see some kind of smart deal. And I actually
I think we will, but by then it'll be too late, my man.
Well,
by then you'll be saying, Pulte, I should have bought the stock when it was at 25, not this 15 that I've settled on.
Maybe. I think that it's a tough space to find brilliant deals in. There's a great PE firm called Sycamore that a lot of people don't know. They're kind of a boutique. They just do retail.
LBOs and stuff like that, and they seem to have a good head on their shoulders. They bought Staples and a few other big retailers. They're out there looking for the same deal. It shrinks the returns, as you know. If you try to buy a home builder and there's 6 other home builders trying to buy the same home builder, nobody's getting a good deal. It's a tough thing.
So why does he have to buy anything that's even related to GameStop? So one of the things that
now you're scared.
Well, okay, but listen, I know I'm scaring you, but sometimes being scared is good. So, it's the only way you get to the other side, right? Go through the fear. So let's talk about the fear. What if he buys something that actually cash flows that's unrelated to games? Okay. He has this, I don't know if you've looked at the public disclosures and some of the language that he has around the investment committee. I mean, this guy has been given full reign by the board to do whatever the hell he wants. I don't know. Have you seen that? In my opinion, I'm not a lawyer, but it's pretty broad powers. I haven't really ever seen a CEO get that kind of investment committee power over assets.
Well, he put his money where his mouth is, so he should be allowed to do that. But if he buys something outside of gaming, I think that makes sense because there's not much outside of it. But buying something in retail.
But I thought you said that I'm scaring you by saying that. It sounds like you agree with that.
I think outside of retail would be when I say scared, I want to be clear that I want to say what I really mean is like mind blowing, kind of, could be genius kind of thing. In retail itself, I think it's slim pickings. Of course, there could be some gems out there. There usually are. But if he does something really, really creative outside of retail, that's something that's not priced in, I think. But you think it would be in consumer retail, or do you think he could consider something outside as well?
I think you'd consider something outside. I don't know, but I really don't know. But I've read, and I didn't talk to him about it, but I've read that he has a big position in Apple. So, you could say that that's retail. But I just say, this is a guy who, in this technology, I guess, in some ways, but, he really is not a dummy. And these people who think that, you just wake up and I don't know how old you are. I think you're around 40. I'm 36.
Yep.
But, Cohen's 38. I mean, to make $3 billion, or even if you don't think he's worth $3 billion, even if it's
very
$2
hard.
It's very hard. I mean, dummies don't do that. So I sit there and I say, he's probably going to figure it out. And I think we'll wake up one day and we'll be surprised. But this is just my own opinion, And again, I want to be very clear. I'm not telling anybody to buy the stock. I could buy or sell it at any time. You should buy or sell it at any time. I think what you're saying is true, which is if people have a lot of their life savings in it, they need to do what's right for their family. So I just want to be clear about that.
Yeah, no, if he can go on a 10, 15-year run where he turns this, this is what Berkshire Hathaway was. It still has the same name of a Massachusetts textile mill that was basically one of the worst investments Buffett made. And he turned it deal by deal, Geico, all these amazing companies, Burlington Northern, a huge investment portfolio. He turned it into, what's arguably the greatest company ever made. If Ryan wants to do that with GameStop, he's got to prove it deal by deal. And we shouldn't give him a Berkshire valuation until he builds a Berkshire company. There, as you know, I'm giving you the other side of the argument. I don't believe it in full force because I don't want to disparage the guy who's obviously done fine. There are a lot of people in the world who have done very well. They became very rich, and then their second act disappoints. And I met a lot of them trying to hire CEOs for drug companies where they sold a company, they did great, and then they're out of gas, for whatever reason. Maybe it's because they get lazy, maybe it's because they were never that great in the first place, maybe for whatever reason. So I think the way you measure something like this is, let's see the first deal. He puts out a first deal, like you said, it could be too late. The stock might already double again, but right now I hear that,
or the stock could go down and then go back up. You just never know.
That's true. So I want to make sure that if this is a good thesis, which it sounds like it very much could be, that everyone's prepared for a 5, 10 year, 15-year march to a roll up or a acquisition company that's well managed. And that's a great thing. I love that. But what I don't like is when I hear people talk about, we're going to squeeze the stock to 1,000 or something like that, because with this short squeeze and by direct registering our shares and stuff like that, we're going to make this happen and stick it to the man. I think it's wonderful to talk about How do we build a great company brick by brick? And yeah, there's a gap in the valuation, but that's okay if he's going to build a company brick by brick into a great company. That is traditional old sleepy finance. And,
But don't you think if some people do short the stock and they end up being wrong, that they deserve to get run over?
That's live by the sword, die by the sword. You have to, yeah, of course you deserve to get run over. If you make the mistake.
I mean, if they think he's such a dumbass and they think it's such a joke, then they should short the shit out of it,
Yeah, I mean, anybody who's been shorting is in a lot of pain. So I think.
And for the record, I do believe, and who knows, that this DRS thing could be a big problem for the shorts, because you look at, and I know it's totally unconventional, and you and I from legacy companies like Pulte Homes and stuff don't even think about DRS,
right?
But you look at the momentum. I mean, you've got this guy. I think he's great. He's comes up with this rap video for DRS. I mean, have you even heard of something like that? If you would have said that somebody was making a rap video 10 years ago about wanting to direct register something that's totally unsexy and combining it with a relatively sexy thing like rapping, okay? I sound like a boomer saying this, but it's like, you're taking something that nobody gives a shit about and making it relevant, and all of a sudden people in droves are DRSing this thing. I could see a situation where it does become a problem, and
it definitely changes things. I mean, if everyone has stock certificates, forget that direct register. Right? You could put a stock certificate in your drawer or safe. And I actually did this once. I bought 70% of a publicly traded company, and I said, these shares are mine. It doesn't do me any good to put them in a bank. I need the certificates. I'm going to put the certificates in my desk, and that's it. And no, they're untradeable. There's something to that that's very interesting, because it sort of suggests that I'm in this for the long haul. I'm going to keep these securities in the attic, and I'm going to pass them down to my kids someday. There's something cool about that for sure. But there's also this idea that, okay, let's try to make this go up more than what it's worth, and let's play a game with the stock market. Let's hack the stock market, if you will, to make this go up. And where I come from, it just doesn't sit well with me, because I think that you're supposed to earn your stock price by making deals, by having cash flow, by growing slowly and surely, not by squeezing it artificially to force some crazy machinations on Wall Street where everyone's pulling their hair out. It's funny. I don't have any love for Wall Street. It's funny to see these guys pull their hair out and say, how are we going to settle? Where do we borrow? Et cetera, et cetera. What if they exercise these? What if this happens? It's kind of funny to see people throw a hamster into the system and let it go run wild. But at the same time, like you said earlier, we are dealing with real money, and it is serious stuff. And what I wouldn't want people to do is think that by trying to game the stock market and trying to force it to go up and trying to do things like that this is really a healthy or good thing. It's amusing, but it's not something that's terribly sustainable or, I think, smart to focus on. Let's focus on the business, and there's not a lot else to focus on is one problem.
Yeah, I mean, if Ryan Cohen's not there, I'm not as interested in any way, shape, or form than I am. Now, let me ask you, what are you up to these days? I heard you were doing some kind of technology company or something, you said?
Yeah, I'm a software entrepreneur. I started a software company about a year ago, got a lot of marquee investors, and trying to roll the ball up the hill again. And, I've done fine so far, and, just continue to raise and grow the business little by little. I'm an acquisition guy myself, so I'm eyeing a couple of deals at the moment. And, there's a lot of good assets out there. They're mismanaged. And when you put them in a manager's hands that knows how to run them and extract the value, beautiful things can happen. And Warren Buffett proved that, but many others have proved it too. And, I'm all for it. If he's going to do deals, that's his mandate. That's what he's going to do. And it's going to be continuing to do deals over 10 years. I love that. If it's about squeezing a stock and forcing it to go up, it's just so, unattractive that I think it's beneath a lot of us to try to play that game, because to me, I'm a purist. I've never insider traded in my life, despite having 1,000, maybe 1,001 chances to do it. And you know what it's like operating a company that's publicly traded or being on the board, you get all kinds of insider info because you're in the industry. But I've never done it once because I'm a purist. I don't like to cheat. I don't like to earn something I didn't earn. I want to see my profits trading or investing because I deserve it, because I made a smart call, not because I knew X, Y, and Z and he whispered to me that, oh, they're going to have a good quarter and I should buy some quickly. And I just hate that stuff. So for me,
yeah, and I don't think Cohen's doing any of that.
oh, no. I'm just saying that when the stock price is not a function of the progress made, but it's a function of people trying to goose the stock price, it turns me off a little bit because it's not something Warren Buffett would do. It's not something you or I would do. It's something that's kind of a game that seems fun to play. It gets a lot of people interested, which is healthy and good, but it's not healthy to try to force the stock to go to 400 in a day. I think it's probably going to hurt more people than help. If he wants to build a Berkshire, I do agree. Like he's not doing the conference call thing. He's not doing the Wall Street analyst thing, which is so cool. You know,
It is cool, and why should he do it? You know,
Yeah,
the more he does, he just gets sued. It's just ridiculous.
I ticked off every bank on Wall Street by saying, I don't want you to have a buy rating on my stock. I don't care. You don't have a buy rating on Berkshire. Why difference does it make for me to have a buy rating? I'm going to build the company the way I see fit. I don't need to present at your conferences. I don't need to, it's either going to work out or it's not. I'm either going to make a great company or I won't. And I think the same thing applies here. And the fervor, this is the most energized community around a stock I've ever seen in my life, times 1,000. If you go to an annual meeting of half these companies, including S&P 500, I mean, tell me about Pulte's annual meetings, but my annual meetings, about 4 people show up, and half of them work for the company, so this is like insane. But how do we take this and make it a positive thing without trying to manipulate is a strong word, but to manipulate the stock to reach a high that it doesn't deserve, I don't think is necessarily helps anyone. Because if you want to get people into this tribe, you want them to buy at a price that's reasonable and somewhat reflects the value of the company. That's all kind of my big thing here. I'm not trying to tell people that the company is, completely a terrible bet. I think that the assets are what they're worth. Like I said, maybe they're worth $10.
Well, I'm glad you got to 15.
Well, I'll add 5 for Ryan, but everyone wants to add 30 for Ryan, and that's just too much for me. I think it's.
So, are you short the stock? I'm just curious.
That's this phone call.
What's that?
I think I'm gonna give up on the short after talking to you, but it's. I'm not ready to buy.
Really? Why?
Well, look, I mean, I think that if what you're saying is true, I can take a small loss. I'm a big boy. It's not a big, I'm not a retail guy. So trading this it's more to put a point on it that if I'm an investor, I try not to buy stocks where the value of the company is 10 or $15, 10 without Ryan, 15 with him. And maybe it's 10 without him and 20 with him. Maybe if you really love him, it's 30. I have a hard time getting.
Wow, you're already up to 20 or 30.
No. I mean, if you take a sanguine
I'm
view,
just fucking with you.
I know, yeah. If you take that sanguine of a view that the guy's the next coming, okay, I've heard the next coming a million times. I've been burned by some next comings. Eddie Lampert was the next coming. Eddie bought Sears, merged it with Kmart. It wasn't the next coming. And it's a guy who, like Ryan, he had billions of dollars. What a rich guy. Wow, so accomplished. And then he's going to become the CEO of Sears Holdings with Kmart. He's going to take it to the biggest company in the world. It went bankrupt too. And, it's not a guarantee that Ryan's the next coming. So for me, 40 is a bit much. If he's going to, seriously run the company and manage it effectively for a long time, and actually do a deal that makes sense, I think that's exciting. And a patient investor will probably be rewarded. But let's say it goes to $400 tomorrow. I mean, do you think that's a healthy thing, Mr. Pulte? Because
I think before it gets to 400, he should be raising more money. I think he should do another offering.
But I agree with you 100%.
Now think about that. What if the stock goes to whatever 40, which it's near, or 60? Why not go raise $2 billion?
I mean, think it'd be prudent.
What's that?
It'd be very prudent to do so.
Okay, so let me ask you this, Mr. Shkreli. So we got you up to 15, maybe 20, maybe 30. You say you're going to you say you're going to close your short after this conversation. We'll see. Smart guy, you're a smart guy. So that's a great compliment. But let's say it gets to $40, $60. Let's say it goes higher. He does $2 billion capital raise. What's the floor of the stock now if he's got $3 or $4 billion in cash?
It goes up and up, but there's people that have bought that stock at a 40, a 60, an 80, and they bought it because they're hoping it's going to go higher and higher in this crazy short squeeze. And what we're talking about is two sides of
but people need to know that they can lose all their money doing this, right?
Yes, they do, and that's why what I don't want to see is the stock go to 400 for 2 seconds, go all the way back down to 40. This happened before, and it lies dormant for a few years, and just is kind of this like, man, I really got taken for a ride on this, and I like slow and steady, and this hasn't gotten that out of control, but I'm happy if my stock goes up 50% every year. I mean, that's an unparalleled success, but I think the people in the call right now, some of them may not appreciate that again. And I think you're right when you say that people are smarter than we tend to give them credit for. And I think that applies to companies too, corporate, executives at corporations. You have to let people make their own decisions, and you'll often be surprised at how smart they are. But I also don't want people to have this false impression that they're going to see $100 or $200 sustainably soon. And if they're buying because they think this is like a substitute for the racetrack or a substitute for a lotto.
Yeah, but if they think that, let them think that, right?
Sure.
I mean, that's my view on it. And just tell them, look, you can lose all your money. But I'm in it because of Ryan Cohen. And
I think you're a very sober voice. I've talked to a lot of voices that are less than sober. They want to see blood in the streets. They believe there's this gigantic conspiracy against this company.
Well, I do want to see some of these hedge funds hurt, and I do want to see people who short things. I don't really like shorts on Pulte Homes because
sure.
The way I look at Pulte Homes is I look at it like it's 6,000 people, and I care about these people, and I care about the legacy of the company. And again, I understand that you can do that in the market, but at the end of the day, I just think that it's kind of a miserable way to go through life shorting companies. It's just my opinion.
I think it is. I can vouch for that as a life.
I mean, you created a company, right? You built a company. You built it brick by brick, and I've built a company. Interestingly, I made most of my money. The reason I think Cohen could probably buy something that's not sexy and not related to games is where I've made most of my money, over $100 million plus. Some people say, "Oh, he's bragging." No, it's because a lot of people just think I made my money in the homes, like hater Amy. But I made my money in air conditioning and M&A in air conditioning. No yeah, that's really where I've made a lot of my money. But my point being is, you put a couple of these businesses in there, and it doesn't have to be air conditioning, but it can be unsexy businesses like that. You raise $2 billion more. Let's say Ryan Cohen's got whatever, $2, $3, $4 billion worth of cash to deploy here. He could have a real business. And like you said, I think it was very well said. And that's how I've thought about it is, the name Berkshire Hathaway, right? It was some shitty textile company. And, GameStop could eventually be, what it was to Cohen. So, who knows where this thing will go? I mean, I really don't know.
They call them baby Berkshires, right? Leucadia is one of them. There's others. There's a family here in New York that built a great one called Lowe's, the Tisch family. So it is certainly possible. I would like to see one of those deals, and less talk about manipulation and forcing the price to go up by buying and squeezing, and more look. Hedge funds are what they are. We could have that separate conversation about whether they're.
Now, what do you think about these market makers and these brokerage houses? I mean, one of my issues with the market makers is just the lack of transparency and kind of the contempt. And exactly, who knows? And the contempt that they have. What's that?
Who knows what these guys are doing?
Oh, exactly. That's my point. But anytime you ask them a legitimate question, right, they burrow into a hole and they act like you're, assaulting them when you're not. And they act like you're stupid. And how dare you ask these questions? And it's like, look, if you got nothing to hide, just be honest about it. At Pulte Homes, or when you go to build a house, right? You could walk in the home, you can see the home, you can look at the countertop, you can look at the walls, you can look at the flooring. You go to ask a market maker about any of these questions, do you sell securities that you don't have in your custody?
Sure.
I think the answer is no. They can't even fucking answer the question. They
Well-
just hide and scurry away. And then they get fined by the regulators. Now, let me ask you a question. How did you get what you got by the regulators, but market makers and these people are
It's a
able to
funny
just look
question.
at securities violations, like in the words of Doug Seifu, and I'm not saying that what he did was, like what you did or whatever. I don't even know the facts of your whole situation. I should probably look into it. But my point being is, this guy's out there calling it, from what I heard, like a speeding ticket when he gets a securities violation fine. I mean, how the hell is that happening? And then on the other hand, you got guys going to jail. And I'm not saying he should go to jail, and I'm not alleging anything. I'm just saying, how is it that market makers seem to try to always not answer questions, and then when they get asked questions, it's like whatever, and then they wonder why everybody hates them?
Well,
They literally wonder why everybody hates them.
I have so much to say on this, and I'll try to be brief. I remember being in the SEC's office and answering questions about my partnerships and all kinds of things. I made a lot of money for my limited partners, sometimes through shorting, but I did very well. I had some accounting irregularities, to say the least, but it was me and a couple guys. We were flying by the seat of our pants, and our partners knew that. But the SEC wanted to crawl up our butt, and I said, okay. And we had a break in the interrogation. And I said, there's something I've always wanted to tell you guys about one of the big firms out there. And the guy says, yeah, what's that? I said, well, we can get into it if you want, but there's a big hedge fund that's doing something terribly illegal. And, I named the firm, and he said, oh, it's the high frequency trading stuff. And I said, kind of, but it's worse than that. And we never followed up. They didn't care. And I think that, the word market maker is a weird one. These guys are basically hedge funds. Susquehanna, which is not the firm I named, and Jane Street, which is not the firm I named. But two firms that could, basically do the same. They sign up as broker dealers and market makers, but they're really hedge funds at the end of the day. Which means all a hedge fund is it's a firm that basically says we're going to make money by any means necessary, and as long as legal or not legal, we're going to make money by any means necessary. As you may know, about half of hedge funds, it's a very hazardous job. About half of hedge funds in history have been closed due to regulatory, especially the top ones. Half of the biggest hedge funds in the world were closed due to arrests or regulatory infractions, largely insider trading, but also all kinds of other things. And it's a risky business. It's a dangerous business. It's a competitive business. It's a very incentivized business where you can make a fortune. So cheating is something people like to do. And I think there are a lot of ways to cheat. Shorting a stock because you think it's overvalued is not a way to cheat. That is something that's arguably healthy for the market. Now, like you, I didn't like it when people shorted my stock. I hated it. So I get that feeling. But at the end of the day, you prove the shorts wrong by building a solid business that you can't be attacked, and getting a good reputation that can't be assailed. And, Warren Buffett did that. And, nobody's ever talked about that being a good short and so forth. So I think, if Cohen can do that, great. He'll find lots of investors who will stick with him for decades and decades, just like they did with Berkshire. But like I said, let him make a move, and we'll see on the market makers and that kind of stuff. Yeah, I think that I don't think the SEC. The SEC is basically an organization that's fairly disconnected. You have the top part of the political stuff, and you have the bottom part where they're kind of chasing these flies when they see them and they get tips. But the big firms are very opaque, as you know. Nobody knows how they work. The people that work there know how they work, but they don't really know any better that what they're doing is legal or not legal. And so the tips won't flow easily to the SEC. The SEC inspects some of these guys, and I think the bigger the firm, what often happens is they can afford having 10 or 20 lawyers with connections that are important, and they get to sort of go through some of this stuff together and move on and not have to sort of suffer different regulatory problems. But I do think there's a lot of corruption in this high frequency trading broker dealer. I don't understand why a hedge fund needs to register as a broker dealer when they're not acting as a broker dealer for other clients. They're acting as a broker dealer for themselves, and they get the advantages of being a broker dealer, of which there are many, that a normal hedge fund doesn't have. So there are lots of weird tricks, and I don't like those tricks. I don't do them. I didn't do them in the past, but at the same time, I think my job as an investor.
So, but why are they so defensive? Like this Doug Saifu guy, right? Like my issue with him, and I don't really care for him, although he tweets about me nonstop, is it's because he's trying to be relevant at age 60, in my opinion. But my question is, why does he see, as a guy who makes $8 million a year or whatever he makes, which, as I said, is, in my opinion, is like a parasite on these companies. These guys who siphon away money, maybe legal, but siphon, in my opinion, is the word that I'm going to use because that's what I think, in my opinion. But what was I going to say? So anyway, so he makes $8 million a year. What is he doing, Martin? Shitting on average retail investors on Twitter all day long. Now, he's kind of slowed that down a little bit since I've started talking about it, and I think you're going to see a lot more coming that way because I think he's done a lot of bad stuff, in my opinion, on Twitter. But what is he doing as a rich guy who supposedly has this life all made, making fun of people all day, every day? I mean, I don't know if you saw, but he was making fun of somebody for being handicapped or something, or saying that
It's
somebody
not
was
a good look.
handicapped or something. It's just not a good look for a publicly traded chief executive officer to be doing this kind of stuff. I mean, again, I'm not a moral judge, but I'm just sitting here saying to myself, like, don't be surprised if then people, fight back at you.
Well,
And what happens is he can give it, but he can't take it.
they're
And then he cries. He cries. He said he was going to go to the cops on me. I mean, have you ever heard of something like this?
that's
He said he's going to go to the cops, and then he says he's going to go sue one of my followers.
man.
Which that'll be a wonderful journey, believe me.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I think Virtue is a pissant company in this global financial system. They are nobodies. There's people at Jane Street. Every single one of the guys at Jane Street is worth more personally than the market cap of Virtue. So he's a LARPer, as the kids like to say. He likes to pretend that he's really relevant, but he's not. I think there's.
I love it. I agree with you. That's brilliantly said. He is a LARPer. He is 100% a LARPer, and he's always accusing me of, never having had a job or whatever. I think I may have made more money myself. First of all, I have had a job, but I think that I've made more money myself than even he's made, and he's fucking old, and in my opinion, is a parasite on the market. And again, I wouldn't be saying this stuff about this guy, but here I am giving away money, literally my own money every day that I made, in my opinion, the right way, not the other way. And he's sitting over here shitting on average people. I mean, I'm just telling you, people are so sick of it. And it doesn't matter how many lawyers you have anymore. And you know this better than
Yeah.
anybody. Look at how many people we've got listening to this space right now. People are pissed off at this guy. They're pissed off at guys like this who think that they're better than everybody. And you know what? It's people like that, in my opinion, that give rich people a bad name. And this is why people fucking hate the rich.
Yeah, no, I think he's, from what you've described, doesn't sound like a nice fellow, but from the I can tell you about the world of high finance. This guy isn't even in the top 500 of relevance. There are.
I know, and I don't mean to make fun of his net worth because it's a lot of money, but I'm just saying you're right. I mean, even look at his net worth compared to some of these guys, and he thinks he's brilliant because he was a lawyer. I mean, good luck to you, buddy.
He worked at Paul.
Who gives a fuck if you're a lawyer?
Oh, man.
He thinks he's the smartest thing in the world because he was a fucking lawyer. He's a deadbeat, in my
I see
opinion.
that he worked at Paul Weiss, which as you know very well, is one of the marquee law firms. And it's funny. I'll give you a real quick story. When I went, I had SEC.
That's the thing, by the way, that he's wanting to sue this guy over with, which I say, bring it on, is that the guy has pointed out who Paul Weiss has represented. And also there's photos of one of Jeffrey Epstein's acquaintances with Doug Saifu. And Saifu's on Twitter bragging, in my opinion, about how he's dear friends with this guy and a client. Why is this guy hanging out with these guys? And the problem is, it's not us who hang out with him. It's not me who hung out with him. Why did he hang out with this guy? And why does he hate it when people exercise their First Amendment and ask these questions? So something is very fucking weird, in my opinion, when a guy reacts the way that he's reacted. Anyway, go ahead.
Paul Weiss is, it's a power player. I had an SEC investigation over a takeover I was doing. And I went with the Paul Weiss lawyer, who cost an arm and a leg for a brief visit with the SEC. I'm talking just a huge amount of money for not a lot of work. But they basically shook hands, and that was it. I mean, there were a couple of questions, and the guy said, "I'm sorry to waste your time, Mr. Shkreli." And because I had the Paul Weiss guy, who just, by the way, left the SEC, it was about a 30-second interaction, and we left smiling. I said, "That was it? I'm shitting my pants over this, and I know I didn't do anything wrong, but that was it." Next time I went with a smaller firm and it didn't go as well. So there's a little bit of that revolving door that does happen. And the Paul Weiss people are very proud of their links through government and business and regulatory agencies that, they sell access in a lot of ways. It's just as dirty to me as the rest of the system is. So he's certainly no fan of mine. I'd like him more if he was a financial programmer or somebody that actually
Me too. It's so funny
made
you say that
something.
because I don't know. I mean, I have, just from some friends since I've had to look into this whole situation because Viola's Catholic and our family, we're big donors to the Catholic Church and everything. So I've had to look into all of this stuff since it happened. And, from what I can tell, Viola is really the brains behind it. And then what they've brought this guy in is basically to be his bitch. But that's just what I've heard.
Well, you need Paul Weiss to protect you, and everybody in government, their dream is to go to Paul Weiss because you'll make $1 million as a partner. You'll leave the SEC and go from 150 to bare minimum a mil. And then you go get to protect the people that pay the firm by calling your ex-colleagues and saying, hold on, slow this investigation down. Don't send Mr. So-and-so to jail, the CEO of a big bank or a big hedge fund. Worry about these little guys, worry about Martin Shkreli or, God forbid, Keith Gill, where, you could make this case, which I would never make.
Yeah. What do you think is going to happen to him? What do you see? Because obviously you've been on the other side of this.
I think that I hope they leave him alone, and I think they'll leave him alone. But you saw Kramer sicking on Gary Gensler, basically saying, look, this guy's breaking the law. What are you going to do about it? And he didn't use those words, but that's basically what he did.
Yeah, I love how he tried to describe the meme as if his view of the meme was how it was. It's like, why is Kramer the authority? And again, Kramer was very helpful with our getting rid of the CEO of Pulte when I had to get rid of him. But so I'm not criticizing him, but I'm saying why is he the authority on what that meme meant? I mean, everybody who looked at that meme thought something different in their own head.
Yeah, I think that you're right. And, my first job was working for Jim when I was 16. So I know Kramer quite well, and I think he's a brilliant man and a great man. He also was a big philanthropist. Kramer would read the New York Post, and he would see an accident where somebody died or a fire, and he would circle the accident in the New York Post. Tragic fire kills 3 in the Bronx. And we'd circle it and say, Martin, go find out who these people are, and here's a check for $50,000. Go get it to them. And he was that kind of guy. And he also loved the game. He loved to trade, not for the money, but for the thrill of it. And he was a very good investor. So people give him crap because he's on TV and he's got to kind of come up with a theory for everything, and it's not easy. But I didn't like it when he kind of had Gensler there, and he was like, "What are you going to do about Roaring Kitty?" for lack of a better phrase. And to me, let the kid trade. Let him make his money. However he sees fit. Less touch on regulation is my preference. I hope they leave him alone. If they do try to get him, I hope we all come to. I don't think he'll need our help, but I hope that we all make a big stink. President.
So how will you make a big stink about it, especially given that? And I truly respect this conversation, and I respect your intelligence, genuinely, always have from afar. I mean, you and I haven't met until today, but how are you going to do that? And I don't know if you're being serious about giving up the short, but that would be amazing. But either way, I think we got you to 10 or 15 or 20 or $30 a share, which is fucking great because Ryan Cohen. But how are you going to get his back while at the same time thinking that it's absolutely fucking ridiculous what's going on?
Well, I have a relationship with who I hope is the incoming president of the United States, and he's got the power to pardon anybody, but I also noticed that the Massachusetts financial regulator is involved. Now, the president can't do anything about that because it's a state thing. And the Mass financial regulator is kind of can be nasty. I had a friend who had a great hedge fund, and they got on him for not checking whether his investors were accredited. And it was a thorn in his side for years, even though it really was a tempest in a teapot. And the guy ended up doing just fine, and it got out of his hair, but it was a pain in the ass. But the SEC and the DOJ, I don't think they could touch Keith because too many people love the guy. I admit that I'm a little jealous, and I'm a little, I see him as more of an amateur than a pro. And again, I sometimes joke, it's a half a joke and a half a truth, that this guy didn't go through the gauntlet of the high finance world of working at a hedge fund like Jim Kramer's, and then working at a Tiger Cub like I did, and so forth. And he's making this big fortune. And look, part of me is very happy for him. There's nothing like making 9 digits in your trading account. I've done it many times, and it's fantastic. So I wish him the best on that. But I also think, he's not doing it through. We'll see what he says tomorrow, right? I'm giving the benefit of the doubt, but he's.
What do you think he'll say tomorrow?
I think he'll say more about what you're saying, and I think that would be make way more sense. And again, I am going to cover
like what, because I don't know if he will. Like, what is it that you think I'm saying? Because I don't think he will say what I'm saying. But tell me what you think it is that I'm saying.
Well, I'm covering my short as we speak to get out of this, because if he talks about building a great business, that's great. If he talks about squeezing people to the moon and forcing the shorts to burn at 100 or something like that, that is a game that doesn't last. You can try it. I've tried it. I've tried it both ways. It's hard. It's hard to hack the stock market. What makes a lot more sense is buying real businesses at good prices, being an honest person, trying not to milk the company and its shareholders for its money, all the stuff we talked about, which makes way more sense to me. That is really healthy, great things. Let's build the next Berkshire Hathaway, and forget this. To me, I think the DRS is a bit of a canard. Forget this stuff. Let's build a fantastic company for the people, by the people, and that's cool. But if you're talking about forcing the stock to go up and burning market make, like, that's not real business, as you know. That's not EBITDA cash flow. That's not M&A. That's not.
Yeah, and I don't think Cohen's fucking around with any of that.
Good, because the shareholders certainly are focused on it. And again, if it's all in good fun, that's great. But if they take it very seriously, which I think some of them do, they're really, really focused on that. It's really a canary in a coal mine. It doesn't really matter.
Well, I don't see why they can't be focused on it, right? Because there are some things systemically with DRS and some of these other things that do make sense, right? But at the same time, I don't think that has to be the driving part of the valuation. It's everything else that we talked about today.
Yeah, I think
Cohen and what he wants to do. Now, have you ever seen an investment committee give a CEO that kind of leeway that they've given Cohen?
Well, he basically took over the company, right? So he owns a ton of the stock. He's the guy. This happened with Eddie Lampert too, and that's why I'm more circumspect than you. That there are people who are billed as the second coming. The red carpet's rolled out for them. Everyone's coronating them.
But what did Eddie Lampert do compared to Cohen?
Well, he had.
I mean, I just think they're two different cats.
Well, you'd be surprised. So I don't disagree on one hand, but I disagree on the other hand. It's not a perfect analogy, but Eddie had what was basically the biggest retail hedge fund in the world for consumer and retail stocks, and he wasn't a trader. He wasn't one of these guys. He didn't short. What he did was he bought AutoZone early on, and he helped make AutoZone a huge company. And he had a magic touch from that. And he had a very weird hedge fund. He didn't have all the institutional partners. He had people like David Geffen, people like yourself, who had just big checks into his hedge fund that he did amazingly well with, one of the best ever. And then he bought out Kmart. And he said, I'm going to fix it. And he became the CEO, and he fell flat on his face. And I agree with you. They're different. The guy really was a talented investor more than a manager. He thought he could be a manager, and it didn't work out. But, the way people looked at him was that the guy knew what he was talking about, and he was the second coming. And he wasn't. And I think that, I don't have to pick Eddie. I can pick somebody else. There's a lot of people where they roll out the red carpet and then, it turns out that they're just
I
not that
agree.
great.
And I don't think Ryan is the second coming. I think there's only
Yeah,
one
I
Christ.
don't mean to
But
insult you with that. My father was
no. I'm
my
just
father was
joking. But I'm actually being serious. I don't think that he's like some otherworldly creature. But I do think that the principles that he has, that he lives by, are second to none in that sense compared to all these other Fortune 500 executives. And I think even though people aren't expecting him, in my opinion, to become, whatever, this guy is at least practicing what he preaches. He's not pilfering from the coffers of the company. All the things we went through earlier. He's putting his money where his mouth is. And if people are going to invest in the stock market, a lot of people are just like, fuck it, I want to invest with this guy and not these other scumbags.
Yeah, would you rather lose money with him, honestly, than make money with a bunch of dishonest people who are robbing their companies? And I don't think that's the alternatives, right? I think you can
and be part of a movement. Have you seen, Martin, that I've had these rallies? Have you seen this? So in December, I had a rally of retail investors. We had 250 people. I charged $500 because people were paying it. It was crazy. I ended up having to write a check. I think I wrote over $100,000 check for the event. It was insane. Okay, people paid as well to do it. That was in Florida in December. It was packed. It was an airport hangar. It was loud as hell. It was like a Trump rally, but for retail investors. It was insane. Okay. Then earlier in May, we held an event. Vivek came, and we held it in Atlanta. We had 500 people packed into a hangar. People paid money for that too, $75. The next one is going to be free, and I'm going to be hosting it in December back in Florida. We already have 700 and something people signing up for it. But my whole thing is like, this is a movement, and it's not just about Ryan Cohen, but it is in many ways about Cohen. And people are just fucking pissed. And they're pissed at these executives taking all of this risk-free compensation.
Tell me about it.
And you know what I mean? And so it's like, my dad came to the rally in December, and he's like, what is this? And you love boomers. Everybody loves boomers, but it's like you're trying to explain it to them, but people are just fucking pissed, and they're pissed at the boomers in many ways. And
yeah, Vivek.
It's like, but by the way, most of these guys who are taking money at these big Fortune 500 companies, these CEOs are boomers. They're just taking, like Doug Seifu. I mean, what the hell does he do to earn $8 million a year?
That's actually what happened at my company. Vivek was my largest shareholder and investor, by the way, by a mile. He bet on me before anybody would, and he got over a 10x return from it, and helped propel his next company. So I think the world of Vivek. But the guys that kicked me out of my company, it's funny. I was 30 years old, and my team was largely young. But the guys who were 60 were furious that we love to tweet, we love to act brash, and we love to be out there. And our board meetings were only about that. They said, why are you tweeting this and that? And I said, why don't we focus on our revenue? Why don't we focus on our drugs and our assets, which are growing, and our stock price, which is growing? And they were so stuck on the pomp and circumstance, which I'm sure, as you know, as S&P 500 company, or one of the biggest companies out there, the pomp and circumstance of having this big publicly traded company with we were just $1 billion company. I can't imagine what it's like at a $25 billion company. The D&O plans, the perks, all this and all that, the corporate jets, all of the stupid
Of course.
things.
Yeah, Ryan Marshall's flying around in a corporate jet. Did you see, by the way, this guy, he's the CEO of the company. Did you see his right-hand guy was busted for running all these fake Twitter accounts against me?
Oh, no kidding. Wow.
Yeah, you got to go look it up. Go look up the news article. It's all over CNBC and everything. But this is the kind of thing. You got these executives running around in these C-suites, fucking around, not doing a whole lot, in my opinion. And then I unmasked this guy, and he was the incoming chief operating officer of the company. His lackey. And now he's freaking out. He's trying to not get deposed, and he's trying to quash a subpoena and all this other kind of stuff, which I think ultimately he'll fail at.
They indicted a guy at eBay for doing something like that.
Very aware of it, yes, and we're looking at every option that we have with this Jones guy, but it's just his name's Brandon Jones, and he basically created these fake identities using AI, and then took other real live people's identities, created these fake Twitter accounts, and then was pumping out all this information about Pulte Group, which is a publicly traded security, under these fake aliases, fake names.
There's about
and then
7 crimes you just listed right there.
And then on top of it, he goes and creates a fake Twitter account pretending to be my dead grandfather. And uses my grandfather's obituary photo to impersonate him to, harass everybody, and not everybody, but a lot of people on my Twitter feed, including myself. So my point being is, that's just one example, an egregious example, but it's one that I'm dealing with. And
that's what these vultures are like. I mean, to make $5 million, which to you and me, I wouldn't say it's not worth getting out of bed for, but we have a higher calling that is about, of course, not only making a fortune, but also doing the right thing. Believe it or not, I've always tried to do the right thing in medicine and elsewhere. It's been misunderstood, but doing the right thing, not taking until you've earned it. And then, if you've earned it, make $1 billion or more, whatever, but don't take something you haven't earned. And the GameStop story for me is a little bit like that, where if I see the stock reaching the sky and I'm saying they haven't earned that yet, let's see the cash flow. That's my message. It isn't that the company's somehow a bad thing or fraud or anything like that. It's a perfectly legitimate company. Ryan's a talented guy, but let's get to some progress before we get too excited. And again, I think we've met minds on GameStop, but my life has been about.
Wait, we did? What? We're on the same page now?
I think we're closer, a lot closer than we were this morning. But I think that, again, we'll see what transpires. I do like the fact that hopefully the narrative, as you kind of lead it to some extent, but also others, becomes more about, as I said, more about the company and its assets and growing that than about forcing squeezes and, that kind of chicanery in my eyes. And then, I'm all aboard, but I think that it's important to focus on those fundamentals. But getting back to the thievery rampant in corporate America, the people who are willing to lie, steal, cheat, forge, anything like that to get $5 or $10 million at your expense, and it's all the shareholders paying. Sometimes it's someone like you or me that owns a big chunk of the company. Sometimes it's every little person that owns it. They like to do it more when it's even more distributed because they really get to control a big company. And I even went to trial and beat my adversaries on 5 charges who, as board members that alleged I did something wrong. And we caught them in the act with evidence, and I won acquittals, which I was so proud of to this day. So I fight that corporate fight too. I know what it's like to see a general counsel, an outside law firm, and a bunch of people make up things to try to force you to do whatever, just so they can get an extra $1 or $2 million. Because for them, that's the be-all, end-all, is $1 extra $1 million, $2 extra, $5 extra, and they basically say I can live out the rest of my life on these fat severances and paychecks when there's other guys.
Well, think about it. What did this guy gain by coming up with all these different identities? He took a guy from Kentucky's obituary photo and pretended to be him. You can't make this shit up.
Just
can
hoping
you?
to get
he took
$2 million a year.
What's
He's
that?
just hoping to get $2 million a year or something like that as a lackey, and have a nice driver and an assistant and do all kinds of nonsense when the big picture of capitalism and entrepreneurship is not to make $2 million a year. And it's not to get it for free for doing nothing or screwing it up. It's to earn it and make something really that lasts the test of time, really big and really exciting. But most of corporate America is about enshrining yourself in a system that is going to reward you a ton of money for doing very little.
Yep.
So I think
and they'll do, these guys, they'll do a lot in order to make sure that nobody asks questions. And
sure.
And then if you ask questions, you become, enemy number one. It's like the Saifu guy, in my opinion, why he's targeting me is because, I've got a big microphone and I'm asking the questions he doesn't want to ask. What's going on in the black box?
Well, you're
What's
a special cat because you have nothing to hide. So you're right. You become enemy number one. And what happens is they turn the investigation on you, where they say,
of course,
that's great that you have questions about me, but I've got questions about you. And they come out with the guns blazing.
Now,
And by the way, they're the ones who are the publicly traded officers. They're the ones who are taking $8 million a year from people. They are the ones who are shitting on the very people that are making them rich, like the retail investors. They're the ones who have to answer questions.
well, I think
I'm happy to answer questions from people who are buying my air conditioning products. I'm happy to answer questions from people that where I've made my fortune, with air conditioning filters and furnaces and all kinds of stuff. Ask me whatever questions you have. But no, the second you ask a guy like Doug Seifu, or the question, or the anytime you challenge a guy or challenge a guy's comrade like this Brandon Jones guy, what do? Seifu comes out of nowhere and he starts all of a sudden attacking you, trying to become relevant because he doesn't want any questions to be asked. But here's the problem: is it's not about. Here's the problem, though. It's not about you. It's not about me. Even if I got wiped off the face of the earth tomorrow, which I'm sure he'd like, there are still hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands of people that are not going to stop, and they cannot stop what's coming. And that's what scares the shit out of them, because people like us and people like me, in my opinion, are just putting gasoline on the fire of asking these questions, which are legitimate questions. And they're just trying to slow it down. They're trying to add as much friction as possible. But it doesn't matter how much friction they want. The truth is going to speed up. And in my opinion, it's going to proverbially and legally run over these people.
I think that you underestimate yourself, because people are very lucky to have you, because you have, as far as I know, it sounds like, my dad was a devout Catholic. I'm less devout, but I am consider myself Catholic. And if you have somebody that's beyond reproach, it's important. When my board came after me, because I was, brash young guy making lots of money, stockholders thrilled, told many times best management in my portfolio, being told that now in the software world. When I asked questions about them or disregarded their kind of authority, they said, let's ask questions about this guy. And unfortunately, unlike you, I'm not proud of every email I've sent. I'm not proud of every tweet I've sent. I'm human. I've made mistakes. And, they'll dig and dig and dig until they find what's wrong with you. This community is very lucky that you're here. You're independently wealthy. You also have a great family name that your grandfather worked really hard to build, that's legendary. And you don't have anything to hide. You have the wealth. You can sustain all their attacks. I can't. I went to prison. They'll put people in prison if they have to. It happened to a fellow at Google by the name of Andrew Lewandowski. He worked at Google, one of these super geniuses, and he went to Uber. And guys at Google called one of these big firms like Paul Weiss, and they said, "We're the victim of a crime." And the FBI said, "What's that?" They said, "Well, this guy took some trade secrets and he's over at Uber." And they arrested him. And thank God Trump had the wisdom to pardon him before he did a day in jail. But they're willing to do whatever it takes to make it illegal to break the system that you're talking about. I don't believe, like you and a lot of your followers believe, that the systemic issues in market making and stuff like that are that serious. I know they exist. I mentioned them earlier. But I think that the bigger problem is the corporate attitude, that, if you don't like it, we'll make some charges up. We'll force you to resign. One of their favorite tricks is they'll say, we won't sue you. If you release us, we'll release you. And that's another, and you look at it and say, I don't know if I could fight, the general counsel and the outside law firm of this company by myself. Most people can't do that. You can. Obviously, you're not an employee of any of these companies anymore or anything, but the fact that you could independently withstand any attack, it's easy to silence somebody. I mean, if you come after them with enough lawyers and enough pressure.
It is, but social media changes the game. I mean, this Saifu guy, he's going to go after one of my followers, or he says he is, which, this is the same guy who says he's going to call the cops on everybody. It's pretty funny. I mean, everybody meaning me. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. The guy's so tone
I hate
deaf.
to interrupt you, but that's what these guys love to do, and people love to make fun of me for going to prison. And listen, I'm the toughest guy in the world. I didn't blink an eye over it. But the point is that if you want to stand up to this system, you got to be prepared to really stand up to it, because they will stop at absolutely nothing to make sure that you bow down to the people that you're supposed to bow down to. And I think that
Well, they have a problem, which is that the social media exists, and I predict that
Oh, I
this
think you're
guy, if he
right.
gets sued, I think
But
there's going to be a lot of people that will probably, I think he'll countersue him, and then I think there'll be a lot of other people that will actually sue him.
I
And I
just
think what's going to happen is you're going to see a groundswell of people coming out and financially supporting these people. And I'm not saying me, I'm saying because people are so pissed at this thing. And these guys, they get away for it so long. I think it's very interesting, though, that you think that this guy's
well,
LARPing.
here's the thing. I just remembered. I was kind of babbling. I just remembered what exactly I was going to say, and I'm trying to tie this in a bow. The Sifu guy is threatening to put people to call the cops because that's all they know how to do. When they get disrespected and their power is challenged, they have those deep connections. Paul Weiss and the Department of Justice are the same thing. I hate to say it because I like some of the Paul Weiss guys, but they're very powerful. If you give them enough money, 5, 10, 25 million bucks, you can get yourself out of anything. And it's because they've got the former literal attorney general working there. And if you're telling me that attorney general, by the way, who met on the tarmac with Bill Clinton, anybody remembers that story, they accidentally ran into each other while they were investigating Hillary Clinton. Very ironic run-in. Those are powerful people that still have a lot of connections. So Saifu, the first thing, like all these same creatures, a lot of these are the same people in archetype. The first thing they do is say, I'm going to call, this lawyer who can call this AUSA.
Yeah, well, I had one of the guys. I busted one of his guys that I think is his guy on LinkedIn. Looking at me, I mean, you can't make this shit up. But the problem isn't even Pulte. The problem is hundreds or thousands of people, and that's what I realized was these guys. Like I think Ken Griffin is way smarter than Doug
Yes.
Seifu because not only is he richer and not Vinny Viola's bitch boy, but he also knows to not engage with the hundreds and thousands of people that Seifu has pissed off. And let me just tell you, I've been on the internet now a long time. I don't think I've met enough. I don't think I've ever seen enough. I don't think I've ever seen as many people be mistreated as I have Doug Seifu treating people.
Oh,
And
he wishes he
it
was
has nothing to
somebody,
do with
He
what's that?
wishes he was
Well, it has
somebody.
nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with the people. And people are pissed
Well,
off.
he's
They are
he's a
pissed off.
nobody at the end of the day. Citadel, Ken makes more money in 1 year than the whole. He makes one Virtu Financial in his own pocket every year. And for all those people out there, I think Ken's a hardworking guy that is very smart. He's also lucky, but he's built a big financial institution with his own hands. I don't love every single thing they do, but you know, you have to respect the guy for building a Goldman Sachs, you know, sized company with his own two hands. And I don't think he ever cheated. He came close to bankruptcy in 2008. They lost almost all they lost 40% of their money in hedge funds. That's basically a death sentence. And they're able to crawl back somehow and make it back. I think they're an impressive group, and I don't think they're the enemy. If anything, these are guys that also put their money where their mouth is and so forth. I think the enemy is your Pfizer CEO, by the way, who has made hundreds of millions of dollars. The Pfizer stock has been the biggest dog. And at Citadel, if you make the firm 100 mil, they pay you 10 mil. It's a fair deal. Now, I understand there's a lot of concern about Citadel securities and stuff like that, but I'd encourage people to think about, you don't have to play that system. If you buy GameStop stock or Berkshire or whatever stock, and you don't trade it left and right because you think you can time the market, which is impossible, but you just buy it and you say, I'm going to leave this alone for 5 years. You don't send money to Virtu or Citadel. They want you to trade. They want you to gamble because they have found ways mathematically through people even smarter than me, which is barely possible. The tongue in cheek here, but they have found ways to profit a tenth of a penny or a penny every time you press that buy or sell button. So they're goading you to trade. They love the action in GameStop right now because they're not short. They just get to skim a cent every now and then from your pocket. And it's dirty and it's terrible. And the way you beat them is you make a long-term investment with a guy who's, like you're saying, he's incentivized to do the right thing and not steal from the company. And I think that's great, but I don't think the hedgies are the enemy. I don't think, these guys are Illuminati. They're plotting some like grand thing. I was one of these guys. I know all of them. There isn't some big great conspiracy. I do think there are a couple bad apples in there, but they don't really have anything to do with us. I mean, I think that there are bad apples everywhere in every industry. And, at the end of the day, our job is to make good investments and secure our family's future and, do that. And I think if you want to root out all of the evil on Wall Street, well, it's going to be a long time before we do that. And I think it's important somebody does it. But I think that, for you, me, and everyone listening, I'd like to buy stocks that go up, and that's really it. And,
Yeah, I understand. But, the same way that you're talking about the injustice that was done to you, I would just say to you, it's very hard for people to sympathize with a rich, smart guy. It's a lot easier for people to understand how they're being screwed over in their day-to-day life. So even though you might look at it and say, well, these market makers are, some of them are bad apples and they're doing whatever. It's like, well, don't be so quick to dismiss it. And I'm just giving you an alternative view. Is like, don't be so quick to dismiss it, because those pennies all add up to
oh,
the
sure,
retail
they're
investor.
billions.
And in addition to that, is it doesn't make sense, a lot of these different things about how are they able to sell product that they don't
Well,
have,
you've got the
you know?
SEC every time, every time they try to close the carried interest loophole, the hedge fund owners go to the Democrats and the Republicans and they say, listen, you close that loophole, half your funding's out of here because we got to pay taxes every year instead of on the carried interest. And, you get your way when you can sway around. Like there are ways to stop this stuff. For example, we deal sometimes with a place called IEX, and IEX has it so that you cannot front run trades, and you cannot do high frequency trading where they can basically say every second is the only speed a trade can happen. We mark our trades. We have this trading software we sell. We mark our trades to the nanosecond. I mean, how sick is that? That if you can come up with a system, one of my colleagues worked at one of the biggest ones called Two Sigma. Genius people, only geniuses work there. They try to figure out how to get a trade faster to a microsecond, which is a millionth of a second, or a millisecond, a thousandth of a second. If you can do millisecond, you're going to make $100 million, because that's in the world of high frequency trading, a millisecond is an eon. So if you can get these little advantages, you can make a fortune. And people are sitting there hacking the stock market. So I understand the appetite to hack back. And this is kind of the short squeeze movement is sort of a hack back at the people who are doing their own hacking. And so in terms of fairness, I don't have any qualms about that. All's fair in love and war. But the interest in sort of regulating that stuff every time the government thinks about it and says, why don't we just kill high frequency trading, make it so that everyone has to trade at 1 second intervals. You can't trade in a half second, you can't trade in a quarter second. That would end high frequency trading. Another way to do it is to say a stamp tax. We're going to make a tax on every trade that's very small, but it's enough to dissuade people who trade 100,000 trades in half a second. Who can do that? No human could do that. It's all machines trading against humans. It's not fair, and I would have no tears if that whole industry disappeared. Their claim, and I'm sure you've heard this from Virtu and Saifu, their claim is they add liquidity to the system. I'm not sure that's really true.
Yeah, I mean, they can say that, but people aren't stupid. People are really, really
The
not
government
stupid,
listens to them.
and they can continue to think people are stupid. Like this Amy lady, she thinks that everybody's so stupid, and she thinks that she's like protecting these people. They don't need protection from idiots like her.
Well,
She's a complete idiot, in my
I
opinion.
like her.
And she's an idiot because here she is, spending her days getting Virtue swag in the mail from this guy,
Is that true?
and it's true. And it's like, you sit there and you think, why are you enabling a guy who makes $8 million a year, who needs no protection, who is so mean to average people every day? I mean, why doesn't he give away his money on Twitter? I don't understand it. So
Well,
anyway,
you've saved me.
it's amazing to me how somebody who is as rich as he is could spend his day shitting on retail investors who are helping make his business money. I can't believe
Well,
it. And it's very similar to Brandon Jones, this guy who created these fake Twitter
maybe he
accounts.
wants to be
It's like,
replaced. Sometimes getting that severance package isn't so bad.
I'll tell you.
You saved me.
Stay tuned.
You saved me $5 a share, which is around $0.25 mil, and even made me some. So I've already almost break even on this. So thank you very much for that, because I was sweating bullets this morning. I started at 29. I got out at 40 when I said I did earlier, and I'm up $5 on a long. So I'm halfway done with my losses. Thank you.
Wow. So where did you buy the stock
40.
at?
I got out at 40 and flipped.
Wow. So you bought the stock at 40 after you shit on everybody that bought it lower.
Listen, you talked me into it.
Sorry, I got to bust
You
your
talked
balls,
me
but you
into
know
it.
what? I
You
respect.
talked me into it.
I respect
And
it.
listen, I do think it's going to 80. Just on my imagination, thinking that there will be a squeeze, but I don't play for that kind of stuff. I like to buy managers that'll, make me the next Berkshire. That's what I'm excited about. Trying to get a quick flip to, screw over somebody, that doesn't sound like a life worth living. I mean, to me, make a great big company that's successful. That gets me happy. That I can get behind. I don't like the short squeeze stuff, partially because I was and am a short seller, and I think it's a fair practice if you do it fairly. But I also think that the fight in investing is about finding great companies. It's not about trying to pull one over on everyone. And I agree, the Virtus, the Two Sigmas, the Citadels, the Susquehannas, the Jane Streets, that goes on and on. All of these guys have built gigantic businesses, much bigger than Virtu, scamming people for a penny here and there. And there are parts of Citadel that don't do that. But most of the other firms, by the way, are exclusively dedicated to that. So Citadel actually isn't that bad compared to some of these other firms, especially in Chicago, where, their basic business model is to try to screw you every time you make a trade. And it makes people so disgusted that the solution is to not trade at all, and is to make one trade, stick with it for 5 years, and look back. I hope that 5 years from now, GameStop's at 200, and I'd be thrilled. Some of you want it to be 200 tomorrow. I think that's foolish, but I'm happy if 5 years from now it's at 200, because a lot of my colleagues and I, that's how we invest. One of my colleagues I sit next to, he bought Nvidia 7 years ago, and he doesn't even know how many shares he has. He doesn't look at it. He just bought it, and he said, Martin, if I look at it, I'm going to make a mistake. I'm going to probably sell it or do something stupid. It's better if I don't know, and I'm just going to buy it and leave it alone. And I think that's not such a bad way to invest, given there are vultures out there with sharp knives trying to kill you every time you make a trade, payment for order flow, all this stuff. Look, if you're telling me he's going to try to build a great company, and he's going to do it, like you said, in an honest way, because he doesn't take a paycheck, I think that's great. What turned me off is all the talk about forcing to squeeze and stuff like that. And it actually does a disservice, because it gets in the way of the good stuff. Because it really is kind of like, I know it appeals.
Yeah, but it's also because you come from the legacy system, right? And so you when you hear that, your alarm bells go off. And I think, the better way, and this is just my opinion, so who the fuck makes it a better way? But the way to make it make more sense is to understand from the ground up, from the retail up, what people see. And people see the bullshit that's going on with these public executives like the Saifus of the world, like these parasites of these big companies that just take all this money from the shareholders, even if it's so-called legally. And people are fucking pissed. And they look at Ryan Cohen and they see somebody who's completely different. I mean, I'm trying to think about how to say this without divulging my conversation with him. But I mean, can you name one other executive of a large publicly traded company that is taking zero compensation and has all of his money at risk in a company?
Not many. The only other ones are trillion-dollar companies. I'm a big fan of Mark Zuckerberg. I think he's done amazing. He's our Steve Jobs in a lot of ways, and that's the only one that comes to my mind. And it's a $1 trillion market cap. Because when you have that incentive system and you have
people are
that
pissed.
excellence, that's what happens. Is that you do, and you have a younger guy as well that's energetic and incentivized and honest, which I do think Mark is. Brilliant things can come out of that. When you have a corrupt system where everyone is looking at HR, you got one eye on HR, you got one eye on legal, and everyone's looking at each other trying to make sure that they extract as much for themselves personally. Shareholders come dead last. that's what you get. Normal companies, you get shitty, good old S&P 500 companies, which, by the way, are the best in the world, but still stagnant and dead and boring. And when you get a company where a guy owns all the stock himself, he's committed to the company, he doesn't care about his salary. I think Zuckerberg's salary is $100K or something. You can make amazing things happen. And Mark built, from one website in his dorm room to $1 trillion business. So I think, definitely a, who knows if he can build 1/10 of Facebook, I think we'd all be happy.
That would be a absolute home run, and who knows what he'll do. The future is bright, but it is very uncertain, and we'll see. But if there's somebody I want to go to war with, it's Ryan Cohen. Martin, it's been a pleasure talking to you, man. I really appreciate it. It's been a delightful conversation.
Thank you for talking some sense. I appreciate it.
All right, I appreciate you. We'll be talking soon. All right, take care,
Perfect.
Martin.
Thanks a lot.
See you, Laura.
All right, everyone. Well, I think there's no better way to end than that. So thank you to Mr. Pulte. Again, a legend. Pulte Homes was a stock I traded when I was 16, with working for Kramer in 17 and 18, and a man that seems like a really honest guy. And again, I think that he makes a lot of sense when he talks about focusing on building a company. I know he's into these theories about market makers and stuff like that. I don't personally believe it and agree with it. And I hope a lot of you guys hear that some of that talk doesn't sound so great to most people out there, and focusing on the better parts of GameStop will probably, I think, go further, but do what you want to do. It's fine. Again, I think I look forward to Ryan's next move is all I can say, because now I'm on your side, for better or worse. But I did have flashbacks thinking to my old colleagues that, they'll rob companies, they'll put themselves way ahead of the company and steal as much money as they can. And the fact that that's not happening at GameStop, I do think is basically already worth it to be on that team, on that side, because all the other companies in the S&P 500 are doing that. So anyway, thanks to Mr. Pulte for leading the way here. It's really impressive and cool that he's taking his time to think about that and do that. And real honest, nice guy. And I thought he would come in here looking for a fight, and he came in here and killed me with kindness. So good for him. Anyway, thanks a lot, everyone. See you next time.